what's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is your host,
Nico.
And Irvin, and this is Shining Spotlight, the stream where we highlight creators in the industry in order to inspire you guys. Today, we have an artist with years of experience under her belt. She's lived in Japan, chronicalized her experience on her website, and worked on the world-famous manga, The Prince of Tennis, as an assistant. We are here in the presence of greatness and valor. Today, we welcome Jamie Lynn Lano to the show. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming,
Hi.
Jamie.
Nice to meet you guys.
Oh yeah, it's been a pleasure. Of course, we've looked at your blog. We're big fans of Prince of Tennis ourselves. Especially Nico. I know you're a huge
fan.
So of course, we're really happy to sit here and talk with you. One of the things that we all like to talk about is kind of more so what it's like to work in the industry as a creative.
Yeah.
So we want to know a bit about, what was your experience? Because I know we have a lot of people, of course, that are going to tune into this video that kind of want to know, not just about the experience of course, being an assistant, but just like your journey as an artist. What did that all start off for you? And then what did it look like coming into becoming an assistant when you spent time doing that?
Oh, geez, that's a long question. Let me put it as short as I can. I pretty much grew up drawing, but I'm a little bit of the non-computer generation. If we didn't have computers when I was little, so it was all analog. I ended up going to college for media arts and animation, and I got really, really into anime, but I didn't want to make it. So having no other choice, I just kind of went to Japan to become an English teacher at the end of my education. And it was there after a couple years in Tokyo that a friend told me about an advertisement that Konomi Sensei had put onto the Jump website in Japanese.
Okay.
But I figured, hey, because I was a huge fan of Prince of Tennis too. And I just kind of took my chances. So the interview, I guess you could say, or the application was to redraw a couple of specific pages from the manga. So I went through them, pulled out the pages, and just kind of redrew them. Sent them in with my resume that I had a friend help translate. And my Japanese was not very good, but I had a gung-ho spirit, I guess you could say. So I just sent it in, and I figured the worst that could happen was nothing. And I kind of thought that the best that could happen was they would call me and have me come bring them coffee or something. They did call me.
Come here, hey.
A little more than coffee. It was actually a really now embarrassing story looking back on it, and I guess it was embarrassing at the time. Now it's a funny story. When they called, it was the editor for the Prince of Tennis that called me, or the editor for the new one, and my Japanese just wasn't good enough to understand, and so he didn't quite get the point across to me that this was not like a come in and meet Konomi Sensei interview. This was a come in and work for 3 days interview, and we're going to see how you work with the team. So I came completely unprepared. I had some drawings, and that was pretty much it. So I didn't have any of the things I needed to stay overnight, and I only kind of figured it out when it got late. And he took all of us out for dinner. So it was me and 1, 2, 3. I think we had 3 other assistants at the time that were already on board. And so, it was me, those 3, and then Konomi Sensei, and we all went out to dinner after I'd been there for a few hours. And at that point, it became clear that this was not just a short interview. And he ended up buying me all kinds of stuff, or rather he gave me and the other female assistant a bunch of money and was like, go buy all the stuff you girls need. or she needs.
Yeah, I thought it
And,
was funny. Like in
yeah.
your blog, you kind of talked about him, kind of being like a little bit like almost like a, I don't want to say like rock star, kind of like you see him like there's like two different images of him. One like you see in his book where it's like super professional, and next minute it's just like him kind of being like, "What up?" You know, like
Dude,
I'm that guy.
like that's the picture
So
you
really funny.
expected.
Yes,
Oh.
yes. So
Came
I
up like
had
a
seen
rock
the
star.
picture like in the old manga volumes, and it was like that kind of nerdy look, you know. So that's what I was expecting, but you know, I was really nervous, and they gave me his cell phone number, and they were like, just call when you get to the local train station. So, you know, I did, and I was super nervous about that because, you know, that series was just so big for me, and I was such a huge fan that it was kind of like calling my god, only I expected a nerdy one. And I got like this guy who like just really looked like a J-pop star or something, and yeah, not at all what I expected. And he's all like, let's just get in my Hummer and go to my house or my studio, which is also his house, it turns out. So
And I guess the
it was
author of the
overwhelming.
Prince of Tennis has to look like a.
What do you do when you get in the car with like your idol?
Yeah, no,
It's like he walked out of the manga, you know, except he was in his 30s, I think, or late at the time. Yeah, it was awkward and embarrassing, and I'm sure that he felt the same way, but I certainly didn't know that at the time.
I would have took so many pictures.
Oh, do you want me to continue? I can totally continue.
Go,
Oh,
there
no.
you go on.
I you know, all these memories. This was back in 2006. I can't remember if I ended working there in 2008 or I started working there in 2008. One of the two. It was right when Shin Tenny produced, before it started. So we were working on we were working on the sequel to the original manga that had already ended.
Yeah, the new Prince of Tennis.
Yeah.
I'm like, one of the things I'm like, I have to say is,
so yeah, it was very overwhelming.
Yeah, no, definitely one of the things that I have to say, at least when it comes to.
I think I missed something because the video cut out.
Yeah, I think it's lagging just a little bit on our end. Let me see here. Can you hear what I'm saying right now?
Yeah, sorry, my internet isn't that great. I'm kind of.
No, it's fine. It's fine. So with Konomi Sensei, like, you know, of course, you know, meeting him and, you know, going through that process, basically, what was like the expectation as like an assistant? Was there like more so, like, was it like kind of like what people would assume in like Bakuman, like the whole like idea of like being like, hey, we're all sitting around in one room kind of cranking away, and then someone's sitting there with a whip, like kind of like, hey, this better be exactly the way I say it is, otherwise we're gonna have a problem? Or like, what did that look like?
So, you know, that's actually really interesting because Bakuman was coming out when we were working on the manga together. So it was fun to watch the parallels. It's a lot like that without maybe the whip crumb. For us, it was kind of like this weird work straight for 2 weeks, like 18 hours a day, and go home for 2 weeks and then come and do it all again next month. That's kind of how we worked. But I know a lot of other manga artists do like they do in Bakuman, where it's like they come every day or they come for, you know, a certain set days per week. We really didn't do that. It was all over the board. It was completely at his beck and call when he wanted to work, basically. And we had a lot of days or a lot of weeks where it was a lot of sitting around, and then we would do 2 weeks of work in like 2 or 3 days and just stay up completely, like the whole time, stay up for 3 days. And it was, Yeah. If I had read Bakuman before I started, then I would have had a decent idea of how it goes, but not exactly, since everyone's a little bit different. We were definitely a little bit different. And we were in charge of a lot. So Konami Sensei would, do all the storyboards, and then he would lay out the page in pencils, and then he would pass it off to us. So we had one girl, RDA, that was in charge of like the character outlines. So she would ink his outlines, and then the other 3 or 4 or sometimes 5 of us were responsible for everything else. So we did all of the backgrounds, we drew all the tennis rackets and all the balls and all the screen tones and anything that came up, animals or background people, things like that. We would do all of that.
So how did you feel like in terms of like, because I think one of the things that a lot of people who, when they think of like Japan and working in, like people who are interested in like mainly like the manga side of things, some people I'm going to say like more in like the English speaking like manga community sometimes turn their nose up to like, for example, like American comics, for example. Some people do that, What do you feel like, or do you feel like there were certain fundamentals that you had to know before working as a manga assistant that came in handy when you worked, obviously, as an assistant that probably translate well between both, like in the industry as a whole, or?
Mm-hmm. Well, so we did analog stuff, so it would have been really helpful if I had more of a grasp on how to work with nibbed pens and ink. And I had also never worked with screen tones before, except for my application. So obviously it wasn't necessary because I learned on the job, but it would have been nice if I known how to do that beforehand. Now, I'm not sure that that's so common anymore. I think software is becoming more and more common for manga artists to use, and less use the tones and all that, because those are really, really expensive, and also you can't make mistakes. And if you're doing digital work, then you can easily pass a page between people to work on. You can also you don't have to pay for the screen tones, and you can copy backgrounds, etc., like really easy. Like we used a literal copy machine, and we had lots of drawings of rackets, like tennis rackets, and like just pages and pages stuffed into folders that were for each character. We also had tennis shoes because each character had a specific tennis shoe that they wore and a specific racket that they used. So we would do master drawings for some of them, and they already had a bunch from the manga before. So we would like do calculations, like it needs to be 3 centimeters wide, and we need one that's kind of facing like kind of looking like this. So we would go to the folder and look for a racket in that character that fit it, and then we would do like a little mental calculation, like how big do we need to enlarge it on the copy machine in order to like literally cut it out and paste it on with rubber cement. Which sounds complicated, but is actually way faster than drawing it again.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So we did a lot
Shortcuts.
of that. And we also did that with backgrounds too. Like we developed a whole portfolio of backgrounds that were set in the same place. Like we weren't able to reuse ones from the old series because they were, a different setting, but this was all taking place at this tennis camp. So like a lot of them were complicated drawings we did. They all just got like, put in a folder and then copied and reused over and over and over again. Now I've totally forgotten what the question is.
Sounds not coming through.
Oh, I forgot what the original question was because I went off on a tangent.
You're fine. Irvis and got muted there, but All right.
Oh.
We're gonna get the fan and me out of here for a bit. So okay, you met with this man Konami, excuse me, and one of the things I noticed.
Konami.
Yep.
Mhm.
One of the things that cracked me up in there was that you initially give him your favorite character being Kevin, I believe.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
that had me
So
rolling.
I like. Yeah. So like so my second favorite character was Ryoma. So I don't remember. Gosh, it's been too long. But like, Kevin was my favorite character, and he didn't even. I don't think he knew who Kevin was, or he wasn't very familiar with him because he was he was an anime only character, and I had read very little of the manga.
So did you ever feel like anytime while you were, of course,
you're gonna have to forgive me, and it's been 10 years, so.
Like, did you ever feel like at any time, like when you were working?
I didn't want to tell him that I was also a huge Slash fan. What was that?
Oh no, I was just saying, like, was it at any time did you ever feel like, like he was looking at it like, really? Like you haven't read much of the manga? Like I put all this heart and like this sweat and tears into it, and you're working for me and you don't know it backwards and forward. You should know this whole thing. Like did he ever like kind of even imply that to the team? Like you guys should know everything to the same extreme as myself. Like only reason why I kind of bring that up is because I know Ichiro Oda, like the creator of One Piece, once said that anybody working for him has to be ready to die for One Piece. So I'm kind of curious if he had the same mentality. Like,
No, so he was super nice and just like really easygoing and funny. Had a very like relaxed attitude most of the time, and when he was stressed out, it was kind of hard to tell. He never really talked down about anyone that I ever heard, and he certainly never like made fun of anyone. If anything, he was always super enthusiastic for all of us. Like anything we were into or anything that happened to us, he was always like, "Oh my gosh, what a great thing!" Yeah, he was just really friendly and really giving, and yeah, not the type I think that would put us down for not knowing. Now, to be fair, we had to look up a lot of information for him because he didn't even remember. He's like, when is this character's birthday? So we all had copies of the entire series at our desk. And we also had copies of all of the guidebooks and the like fan books that had all of the relevant information, like the character's blood type and their hobbies and their birthday. And so he would ask us to go find the information when he needed it. What does Atoge like to do? What does it say he likes to do? Or who is so-and-so's brother, etc. So that was usually on us. So he had no leg to stand on, even if he had made fun of us, because he doesn't remember half of it. I mean, it was like a 10-year-long series, too.
That's funny. Like, just be like,
there was a lot to remember.
There's fans out there that probably remember better than him in that way. Like, right. Oh my gosh, like what's their birthday again? Like,
oh, for sure.
Oh man, so in terms of like,
I totally look forward to that day when I.
So like as far as with your, like, for example, like with your own work, do you feel like there were skills that you obtained during your time that you can now even use, like, and apply with your own work, for example, like that you gained as an assistant that you learned, working there, or no? Would you say that it kind of didn't really add much to what you do with your own work?
Well, yes. I mean, of course, because you're doing like, you can't just say I don't feel like doing it. You're doing art for 18 hours a day for a couple weeks every month. So, like, I feel like I got better at drawing. I got better at, composition. And, when we had downtime there, we were always talking manga that we liked and different manga that we could use for our inspiration. So I learned a lot. I learned a lot of Japanese too. Weirdly, the thing that stuck with me the most was how, now I'm saying this gently, how not to treat your workers. Now, he was super nice, like I said, but he was also very relaxed in his work ethic. To say nice. So like I said, we would have all this time when we had to just sit around and do nothing because we couldn't work on pages until he gave them to us. He would just kind of disappear into his house upstairs, and then we would hear from him through email or something or text message, and that was it for like a week at a time. And we're like, why are we sitting here when we're actually not doing any work? And it got to be quite frustrating for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
But I was the only non-Japanese person, so I was the only one who felt comfortable speaking out about it. But we bitched behind his back all the time about that in particular. And we all would say to each other, this is something I will never do to my own employees or my own assistants if I have them.
Mm-hmm.
It was maddening. And then, like I said, he would come in at the end, and we'd like wake up in the morning to find that he had been there all night, like scrambling to get his pages done and give them to us. And so we would be working for 3 days straight without any sleep, and it was really exhausting. And sometimes, we would have to push the deadline even more, and that's when the editors come into the studio and stand around and bug you and sometimes offer to help, which was funny.
Oh my gosh,
Like,
I don't
it
know
was
why.
so analog that they literally would print out the words and paste them on for the speech bubbles. So our editor would come in and he'd have like in his briefcase, he'd come in a suit, and in his briefcase there would be like printed out text that he would take the pages as we finished them, cut out the text and paste it onto the bubble and be like, yes. And then he would get someone to come over, and we were in Saitama and the office was in Shinjuku, and that's like an hour's train ride away. He would have them take like one page at a time over there just so that it would get in faster.
Oh my gosh,
And
So
then we
basic-
were working under all this pressure too, and it was a lot of pressure when you're already exhausted. So we all said, no way, never ever will I treat my employees that way. And that was the main complaint I had there.
So basically,
otherwise,
Kuroshi
it
is a
was
thing.
kind of a dream come true.
So like Kuroshi, the
Yes.
like over yes.
Yes, it's a thing. Japan. Overwork, yeah. Well, I'm not sure that it really applied to us. For us, it was just a mad dash and scramble to get it in on time. But like in the general office culture and the office sense, that we were not really a part of. We were very removed from that. In the general office sense, though, like a lot of people were, they would literally be hospitalized for overwork, and suicides are not uncommon. Like just living there 9 years, like I did, I was on a lot of train stops for what they would call human accidents. So it's really unfortunate, the culture over there. But I don't really think that it applied to us per se. We just had, as assistants, we just had to do our job. And I don't think any of us really wanted to slack on that. So, like, we would just do it. Just scramble and do it. And we would just, by the time we're done, Sensei can go upstairs and he leaves us to, like, clean up we would just be like robots cleaning up the studio, and it would be a total mess at that point, like just a disaster because everybody hadn't been sleeping for days, and so there would be dust and screen tone and eraser like shavings all over the floor, and we'd have to clean those up before we could make our hours trip home.
Oh my
Did anyone go crazy from OCD?
Not in my studio. Me. I was probably the craziest one. There was one of the girls I really liked there. She didn't last more than a couple weeks, and she was very vocally upset at him. I think it was because she was fired.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Hairs in my eyes today.
1 second before we get into any of the other questions, I just need to take a brief moment to take a slight break. Just to make a quick mention of the Honeycomb Hideout. For anybody who's interested in the anything like I can't even think of the name of it right now. Howard Stern for Geeks. Think Howard Stern for Geeks for the Honeycomb Hideout. It's basically a nerd podcast where anybody can come in, listen to it, and have a good time and just talk about nerd shit. Anyway, guys, I'm going to link the link down below. It's for the Imaginos Workshop team, which we are also a part of as well. So I think you guys should.
Your mic went out, man. So yes, as he was saying, we're also part of the Imaginos Workshop network. Definitely check out the content we're bringing out with them. We the extras actually is just came out with a new book here, and get ready for the release. So definitely be up on it. Anyway, that being said, let's get back to what it is. All right.
Oh, interesting.
So
we have the deal with the honeycomb. Why is it called honeycomb?
Why is it called honeycomb? Well, I could explain it to you, but you could also check out the podcast
I was just
to pique your curiosity.
That's how you do it. That's how you do it.
Oh yeah. Yep, you are still muted. Okay. His mic's still messed up, so he's gonna be MIA for a bit here. And we take it back to Nico. All right. So I'm a little more curious here. Okay. Outside of working with the team for Prince of Tennis, what was was there any other works you were you delved into after your time there?
You mean like worked on or just read?
I mean, as far as your career as an artist or even a writer, even.
Oh, okay. So I started a manga that I still not finished because I don't know. I started a manga like 10 years ago and I never finished it, and I did a million pages here and there and never finished it. So it's my goal to finish that next. I did write and release a book based on this whole thing. So I basically turned all of my my kind of journal, my blog entries into a book. Now I took that book out of publication because I found there was a group of people that contacted me that had been using it to harass Konomi Sensei. They didn't like some of the things that I wrote about him, and I'm not entirely sure of all of what went on, but it felt very dramatic. And there were a couple of people in my DMs telling me about it. And I was like, I just don't want to cause any trouble. I'm just going to take this book out of market. It had been out for plenty of time at the time. So I felt fine taking it out of publication. But yeah, I never intended to hurt anybody, especially not Sensei. I just kind of wanted to tell a real story of what it was like, at least my version of it, my experiences. I didn't mean to say that he was a bad person, because I absolutely don't think that at all. I think he's a great, wonderful person. He just has different work habits than I do. Or maybe we have the same work habits,
Princess of Tennis,
but
right?
I wasn't in charge, so it was harder to deal with.
It was like the Princess of Tennis, I'm assuming, right? I think I saw it on the blog.
Yep. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, I tried to read that myself. I was like,
yeah, I'm sure I talked about it on the blog, and yeah, there might be used copies or something floating around out there, but yeah, I took it down for as far as new publishing stuff goes. So it's all right. It was a little more fleshed out than what I wrote online, and it was, of course, edited better than the flow of consciousness that came out in the blog posts. But it was essentially the same information.
So I'm curious. Are you going to say something, Nico? I'm curious, what are your influences when it comes to art? If you had to pick and it could be, from any parts of, of course, the whole art spectrum, who would you say has influenced your style?
Mm-hmm. Oh geez. I totally should have prepared for this question. So I used to really like this mangaka called Arina Tanemura, and she did Full Moon no Sagashite and some other stuff that none of it was super popular here in the States, but I really liked her work a lot. I also liked, gosh, it's been forever, but the artist who did Bakuman and Death Note.
Chiobata?
The two artists who did, I was huge fans of. Yeah, Obata Sensei, and there was a writer too. Sorry, I'm sounding so bad, but it's been 10 years since I've read it, probably. So, right now, I really like the artist who draws. It's called Girl from the Other Side. They the whole story is really good, and it's being more or less simulpubbed in English, so it's really good. And I also like the one who did The Promised Neverland. Really great art.
Yeah, I love those covers that I always see.
Cutesy and macabre story. And they're just so talented. I also really like Made in Abyss. If you take out all the kind of questionable stuff. Really, really good story. Really cutesy art, but a little bit too much on the lowly side sometimes.
Oh my gosh. That's probably one of the biggest problems I do have with the industry is that.
Yes.
I think about when I went.
Okay, so I think one thing that people don't understand about Japan. Oh, I was gonna say, so LowlyCon and it's obviously from a Western perspective gross. If you're looking at it from a general person, and I very much am not interested in seeing young kids in those situations. I do think it's worth noting that Japan is very different in a lot of ways. Now, an average person is definitely going to say, ew, I don't want to see that. but it's also common to see young kids as idols and to put out photo books of those idols, like AKB48 or something. I mean, those kids are like 10 years old, some of them, and they do swimsuit photo books and very questionable stuff. And you see those in a normal bookstore in Japan. There's no nudity. There's no like very blatant untowardness, but it's also very uncomfortable. And seeing something like that is very common over there. So I think that like I can see the tendency where people might have a way to, they might not think of it for what it really is, if that makes any sense. I don't know. I don't want to make any excuses for people doing bad things, but also, like, I also understand how Japan gets so many lowly stuff, does so much stuff with lowly. Just having lived there, like, I get it, even if it's not what I wish was happening.
Yeah, I was actually surprised to see so much of it myself. Like when I, like this is probably like my first trip when I went to Japan. Like, and I'm like, go to Akihabara, and I'm thinking to myself, like, oh man, this is like the mecca of anime. Everybody always talks about, And I'm like, see the first floor, and I'm like, oh wow, like it's like some of these buildings, and I'm like, this is a lot of stuff I know. And then I go up to the next floor, and I'm like, okay, this is different. And I go up further, and I'm like, okay, this is getting a bit weird, And then at least to me, And then I keep going up, and I'm like, okay, now we're like in just straight lowly town, and I don't know, So I was like, okay, So it's funny, like after seeing it, I was like, what? I have a different outlook on Akihabara than I used to, but that's kind of my perspective.
Oh yeah, that was my exact experience first time in Akihabara. Electronics store on the first floor, second floor like anime, third floor straight up adult anime everywhere, hentai everywhere, and like the down escalator is not the same as the up escalator. It's across the store from you, so you have to walk through it to go down, to go back down. And I was like, wow, didn't expect that.
It's quite the journey, But now I'm curious, like with working, like as your time is like working as an assistant, was there ever a point in time where like there was ever like competition? And what I mean by that is kind of like even competition amongst like assistants. Did you ever feel like I have to beat this assistant with doing this? Or did you ever see any, like, was there ever as a team, like we're like, hey, we need to beat this other team. We have to collectively do this together. You know what I mean? Like any rivalries?
No. So that part is very different from Bakuman. Like, first off, we were working on something that was already like a bestseller, a hit. It was a hit before it even started because it was Prince of Tennis. And Sensei got away with that other artists, probably don't have the leeway for. So we didn't have any rivalries with other teams. I don't think I ever even met a single other assistant like from another team. Now our head assistant had worked for another manga sensei before us, and then he worked on Tenipuri for like 6 years or something. What did he work on? Oh, he worked with the sensei that does JoJo's Bizarre Adventures.
Oh, yeah.
So he would tell us stories from like their time, his time working for them. Yeah. It's funny, he ended up being published as a mangaka later, but I never found out what happened after the first issue. He was like, oh my God, I got my work in a magazine. And then like, this was years after I left, and like, he never said anything past that. So I don't know whatever happened. He's probably still working for Sensei, unfortunately. He tried really hard, but it's super hard to make it there. Yeah, we didn't have any rivalries with other teams. As far as like rivalries between us, not really. It was more of like a family where we all helped each other out, and we would teach each other different techniques. And we would even bring in manga to look at, to kind of like copy their technique or what we thought was their technique. We're like, oh, it looks like they might have done this way, so let's try that. So like it was just a super helpful, super friendly. We all grew pretty, I think, because we were in like one room every day, all day for weeks. So there was really no room to get mad at each other, I don't think. That it's that, or they were mad and I didn't know. I mean, yeah, sometimes it gets irritating because, you know, you're in such close quarters. But like I didn't feel no rivalry, no animosity. Everybody there was mostly wanting to put out their own manga too. So like we were mostly there as like a job or as a learning experience of our own. So there was no like sabotage or anything like juicy like that. Nothing like that.
Okay. So while we wait for someone to get from MIA status again, really curious here because we asked you before who influenced you, but you know, again, you worked on Prince of Tennis. I mean, I don't know. You may know, you may not know, but that you know, personally on my end as a fan of it, this is huge. It's crazy. I'm literally talking to somebody who touched these pages. So I'm like, all right, what would you have to say to others who are aspiring to be a mangaka, to touch these pages like you have, to who are trying to work on stuff or even trying to get into the industry over there in Japan? What would you have to say to those who, again, who are aspiring in this industry? Any advice, tips?
Well, my advice now is very different than it would have been 10 years ago. The landscape has changed. Honestly, if you want to work in Japan and working on manga is your thing, like you have to work there. It has to be Japan. Then I'm going to tell you to, first off, study Japanese, study really hard, be as fluent as you can. Second off, I would recommend you move there. Now, you don't have to. You could definitely send in submissions from abroad, and there are people that get published that way. But if you really want to be a part of the whole like Japanese culture and Japanese manga making world, you know, then you kind of have to be in Japan. I think that's the best way to go. Like if that's what you want to do, go for it. Make sure you know Japanese. Make sure you have a marketable skill to get a visa when you're over there, because you can't just. Oh, if you're from a country like Canada or somebody who has a work-study program, or wait, no, not work-study.
Study abroad, or
there's like a visa exchange thing you can do, so you can just move over there with a sponsor for 2 years. Like if you're from Canada, if you're from the US, unfortunately, then you're not eligible for that. Like we don't participate in that program, unfortunately. So you would have to have a sponsor to be able to work there. So when I started working for Sensei, I was sponsored by somebody else, my last job. And then I had to switch my visa over to get it sponsored by, and it was a huge hassle. It was very hard to do. Lots of back and forth paperwork. But yeah, like if you want to do it, I think it's totally possible. Japan loves foreigners as a novelty, which is not necessarily the best place to be. But it's not awful, I guess. Like you can use that to give yourself a foot in the door. And when I started there for Sensei, I thought that was why he contacted me. At first I was like, oh yeah, he definitely only contacted me because I'm like this totally foreign white girl. And that could have been part of it. That was probably part of it. But yeah, just use that. otherwise, if you don't want to go through the hassle of learning Japanese and moving to Japan and getting visas and having to deal with like having to learn an entirely new way of life, which I loved, but it's hard. I think your opportunities doing like your own comics online are better than doing manga now. Now, I wouldn't have said that 10 years ago, but nowadays I just see webcomics breaking out all the time. Like a webcomic that I follow called Heartstopper is now a Netflix show. And,
One Punch Man did.
Alice is amazing. I mean, she's had so many opportunities just because she started publishing it for free. What was that? There have also been some people doing comics that were published here, and then they were published in manga magazines in Japan. So depending on how you look at it, they're manga now. And there have also been other artists that have been recruited because of their work here, recruited to draw manga specifically for Japanese companies. So that's another avenue. But honestly, I just don't think that it has to be published in a magazine in Japan the first time it's published for it to be manga anymore. Like even Made in Abyss, like I mentioned earlier, that is not published in a magazine. It's published as a webcomic. And then they put it out in the volumes later on. And there are other fairly popular manga over there that the same kind of thing happens. They're published online and then, morph into like volumes later on, like Hitalia or a bunch of other ones.
So do you think that's the way of the future?
So I would say, if you just want to, I do actually. I think print books are not going anywhere, and Japan loves their like weekly phone book mangas. So that's not necessarily going anywhere, but I think a lot of the rest of the world, especially like here in the US and stuff, a lot of creators are just moving digital, or there's a lot of room to get your own work published through publishers here too. Like I know Image did a lot of that, and I'm not sure if they're doing it so much anymore, but like a lot of indie comics getting pretty well recognized here. Walking Dead and stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm a big Saga fan myself.
yeah, Saga. It wasn't there a movie deal for Saga?
I think so. Yeah, I know that there's also one of Brian K. Vaughan's.
But I might just be pulling.
I know for Brian K. Vaughan's, some of his other works, he has like TV deals going on, like Why the Last Man has a TV deal, and then Paper Girls, has a TV deal, if I'm not mistaken.
Paper. Really? Paper?
Yeah, Paper Girl.
Like the media industry is totally snapping up all these like indie comics or small press comics, and just they finally discovered what Japan knows. There's a lot of gold in indie comics or smaller comics.
Yeah, we saw Viz Media trying to pick up Fangirls in the original.
Netflix and whatever. Fangirl, like the what's her name?
Yeah, there's an original manga done by Rainbow Rowell and Sam Max.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, so that's actually originally a book. There was a book, and the funniest thing, the book is just about this girl who writes like fanfic based on Harry Potter. only they call it something totally different in the books. And then she turned that like fanfic world into that whole series that she has out now with Carry On and the 2 sequels. And then now they're doing like their deal with Fangirl. So yeah. And I know one of her other, Eleanor and Park, is getting made into like a movie or something too. And they did the Fangirl manga was based on the book.
So when you guys are working on like a page, like how long did it
that's
actually?
Another favorite of mine, Tilly Walden.
Like how long did it take to do like a page?
How long did it take?
Yeah, like
it depends on the page. It totally depends on the page, like how many panels there are and how complicated the backgrounds are. Like some panels were like 2-page spreads with lots of details in the background. So those took forever. Or they would have lots of little panels and every single one would have like something new in it that we didn't have a background for. Right. Like pirate ship. Okay. So I did did I do that? I want to say I did the pirate ship there. What was that guy was on? Gosh, it's been too long. So like this kind of page would have taken forever. Absolutely forever. Like, unless you're hurrying, you know.
You're rushing. We have to get it out on time.
Like we can stretch out like a whole page per day. A whole page per day with 5 people working on it. Not too common, but you know, some of them did take a while.
I see. Now I can just imagine, like, you know, everything
you just knock out really quick. You know, they're all photocopied and like. Go ahead.
So was there anybody in particular, like, okay, obviously, like, you know, from you know, going through and, you know, like reading your blog myself, you know, we know that being an assistant, unless your mind has changed on this, isn't something you necessarily would want to do again. Of course, you want to do your own work, you know, per se. You know, you'd rather put more time into that. So did you ever try to pitch your own work in Japan? Like we've heard kind of from some other people about the process. For example, like we had Nao Yazawa of Wedding Peach come on the show, and she talked a bit about like the process in terms of what it's like actually pitching. You know, like trying to, you know, you meet someone and trying to get it published, like you get in a business card and everything in Japan, and like have you ever tried to do that? And then if so, like what was that process like for you on your end?
No, I never pitched anything. I think I just didn't have the confidence for it. Also, I was just tired all the time. Just the work schedule was a lot. So I never pitched anything. I did have a tour of the Jump offices once, which was nice. This was way prior to working for Sensei, though. Like, I had just moved to Japan and I couldn't even speak Japanese, but like, I knew someone who knew someone who knew someone that worked there, and they're like, I'm going to get you in touch with an editor and they'll like give you a tour. And that was pretty cool. It looks exactly like it does in the Bakuman anime. Desks are exactly the same. So I have a feeling that the like whole pitch process is pretty similar.
Interesting.
But me, no, I never did. I thought I would eventually, but I just never did. And now I don't really want to have to put out at that kind of a schedule, like on my own. It's just too much work. And I think that I want to enjoy life at the same time. Don't want to work myself to death.
So do you have any projects right now that, you know, like we can expect to see or that you got coming that, you know, that we'll be able to check out?
So yes. So my life has been like back and forth all over the place. When I left there and when I left Japan, I just kind of wanted to find happiness because I was just exhausted. So actually moved to Hawaii, and it turns out I can't be creative when I'm like struggling to survive because it's so expensive.
Yeah, I've heard
And
about
then
the struggles of
recently I
Hawaii.
moved back to my parents' home in Washington. Gosh, like seriously, I was working like 60 hours a week. You don't have time to do anything on top of that, you know, and like you don't have time to even enjoy the beauty of nature. And at that, I still could not. And I wasn't working for minimum wage. I was working for like double minimum wage, but like I still couldn't afford my own apartment. And I was just like, I struggled and decided it just wasn't worth it. So I came back here to kind of hopefully figure out a better way to let myself be creative and advance forward. So I moved back here to Washington. This is where my parents live. And so this last year during quarantine, I bought a school bus. And I've been remodeling it into like an RV kind of. So it's called a schoolie. Yeah. And I've been remodeling that. And my plan is to take off and travel the country and let my creativity come out more while I'm traveling. Just kind of work from the road. And by work from the road, I mean, I have the manga that I started 10 years ago that I'm going to finish, I swear. And I'm going to actually put it there for once. And then I want to write novels too, like fantasy novels. I'm also working on like a subscription book box called Rainbow Crate. And I've been working on that for the last year or so while I also worked on the bus. And that is going super well, and it's going to stick around forever. So I'll still be working on that. I do all the art design and a lot of the actual art in it. Yeah, that's it. So Rainbow Crate has been my main project for the last year. And now that it's going very smoothly, I feel like I'm close to being able to get back to my own like personal projects as well.
That's nice. Like seriously, like it's funny. You're like the
thing.
In our last interview we did. We talked with Rod Espinoza, and it's funny when he was actually talking about like himself as a creator. He mentioned about traveling around in an RV. So it's kind of interesting when you mention it. I'm like, you're the second creator I've heard say that. It's pretty cool to see. Like putting your basically your passions all into everything. Right there. It's like, what else do you need?
I think a lot of creators like to travel. So my bus isn't ready. I just finished the demolition inside and I'm starting to rebuild. So I actually this morning, see, here's the paint. Wait, you can't see it. I can't figure out which way to move. There's paint right here. Anyways, it's also everywhere. I just finished sealing the floor with like rubber paint. So it's now ready to build. Next, I guess, is insulation and putting all the fun stuff in. So up until now, it's been a really dirty job and not in my expertise at all. I've never built anything like, I've never really done mechanics or building a house. So this is very new to me and I'm totally learning as I go along, but it's fun. So I hope to finish by fall and then get here and start like traveling around to all the beautiful destinations, hopefully.
Do you have a particular con that you want to go to?
Wake up next weekend and like let my creativity. Any particular what?
Like a convention, like maybe like Anime Expo or something like that, or our home. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Once. So I used to go to Anime Expo every year, religiously from I think 2000 until I left in 2004. So it's not super long. And then I went once in 2007. I flew from Japan into Anime Expo. So I loved Anime Expo. I just like getting enveloped by like the feeling of just being amongst people who get me.
Get that.
I am super excited to go to Anime Expo whenever we are able to and it's safe. Like, I am not going into any crowds. I am vaccinated, but I am not going into any crowds until we have this whole COVID thing under control. But afterwards,
Welcome
I
to the
definitely
team.
want to go to AX. I also used to go to Anime Central in Chicago sometimes. I'd love to go there. I'd love to go to New York Comic Con. Oh, I've been to San Diego Comic Con. I'd love to go again. I'd go pretty much anywhere I could, really. I miss being amongst my people. I haven't seen my anime people in, I don't know, however long this quarantine has been.
I'm with you on that. I'm
haven't
definitely
really even seen anime people in person since like I left for Japan. Yeah, I miss it. And there's a lot of book cons and stuff I would like to go to. There's just so many things I can't wait. I guess I'd go to
Uh-oh, little accident.
technical difficulty.
Sounds like something dropped.
Let me fix this here.
All right, people. In the words of popular YouTuber Elitas, it just got live action.
Whoops.
Well, while
Knock
we
everything down, so that's fun.
while we wait for here a second, I will say this. For those of you guys who are watching this video, make sure you hit the like button on this video. You know, it's definitely and subscribe.
There, okay.
Good to go.
Yeah, all the cons. I want to go to all the cons. Everyone. I'll hit them all because I'll be in a bus and I won't have to get a hotel. It'll be great.
Good. I'm like, no, I definitely can't wait till it gets back my stuff. I know what we have here in Michigan is Youmacon. Shout outs to Youmacon. Love Youmacon. And I definitely, like, every time I go, it's like kind of like that sense of community. Like everybody, get together. Even when I go to like anime stores or something in the area, like just yesterday, I went to a store called Otaku Detroit, which I recommend, people stop by there if they're in the Detroit area. And I walk in there and I like see people I know from like the cons, even though I haven't gone to the cons. I'm like, oh, hey, what's up? Like it's like the whole community. So I can only imagine, like especially since you went to, like, for example, Anime Expo, or like some other cons, like maybe in your area or whatnot, you probably run into people every now and then. It's like, like, dang, we're all like convention family or something. I don't know how to explain it, but.
It was like that in Hawaii all the time and Japan too, because, I had all my anime friends there. I had all my anime friends in Hawaii. Here, not so much. I'm in a really rural town. It's my parents' town, so there's nothing here. It's just me and a bus and my cats. So I look forward to going to everyone else's anime cons.
So you're a fan of Nana, if I'm not mistaken, right? Nana?
Yes.
I didn't know.
I should have said that earlier. Yes.
Oh my gosh. So
I didn't know.
If Aizawa ever said to you, hey, can you, help work on this manga with me, would you make an exception for Aizawa? If she's like, I want to bring back Nana.
No. She can bring back Nana on her own. No. Although I feel really bad because she needs to finish that manga. It's been so long.
Oh my goodness, yes.
But no, I don't know. She can find someone else. There's lots of people who would be glad to help her. She's also very famous in using assistants.
Yeah, I love Nana. Even though I don't have any voice.
Probably why it's been on hiatus for like 15 years.
I wonder if it's ever going to come back.
I wish she would finish it because it's one. I don't know. So Nana was published in a magazine called Cookie, and every like 5 years she draws like one thing for them. So like one time she did a calendar image for their yearly calendar. One time she drew one page of that like kind of joke gag manga that comes at the end of some of the chapters. Yeah. And then I haven't seen anything from her in a while, but I want to say right before quarantine, she did like a very small something. So like she's still around. Maybe she's working on it in secret. I don't know. I felt like Nana was like right at the end too, so it wouldn't take a whole lot to finish it.
So many
like
theories
at
as to what
this
could have
point,
happened.
if she just drew like one page, if she drew like one page and like at the end it had the end, I would be satisfied.
I
also feel that way about Hunter x Hunter because like seriously. I only like manga that have long hiatuses apparently.
Oh my gosh. Hunter x Hunter. Of course I have the Japanese one. I had to get that, but but yeah, no, seriously, Togashi, I'm like, come on, if you ever watch this video and you know what I'm talking about, I'm like, please, oh my goodness, have some.
Right?
I don't know. I almost want to say, I'm like, have someone else finish it for you.
So he has like back problems or something like that. That's why he's not drawing.
But on the serious note, like I think.
Well, actually, I heard some juicy stuff about him, and that I heard that his assistant just draw a lot of the manga for him, anyways, including the like main characters, which I don't think most artists do. So like, just let them run with it. Like, give them a script, let them run with it.
I know he let Sue Ishida, the creator of Tokyo Ghoul, like do like a one shot of Hisoka before. So I'm just like, why don't you just ask Sue Ishida? I'm sure he's young enough to do it. I'm like, I don't know. Ask Sue Ishida to finish it up for you.
Yeah.
I'm like, unless people would feel like Hunter x Hunter looking like in a Tokyo Ghoul art style would look strange.
Get someone to draw it and let him put his name on it.
Yeah, that would be a good option.
That'd be fine with me as long as it gets done.
Now, before we wrap up here, I do want to say, well, actually, Nico, do you have anything that you want to say on your end before I ask the final question?
No, I was about to say, we rolled a little bit over here, getting a little too excited in our guests here. We don't want to take more of your time. So roll with the traditional question of the show.
Okay. We ask everyone this. This is going to sound very epic, if you will. What is your end game? Meaning, at the end of your career, how do you want your career to be? How do you want it to look? Essentially, what is your big game plan? How do you want your career to end out?
So I don't want to spend my time having done something that is really good, but only a few people see it. I want to have something that is enjoyed all over the world. I know a lot of people say that they write or they draw for just the passion of it, and that's a great way to progress. But I want to make something that has inspired other people. That's all I really want out of my career working in the arts. Like, if I can say that I touched millions of people all over the world with this thing I made, then I will be completely satisfied. That's what I want.
That's a good answer.
Humble answer.
Oh my, that really is.
It comes with like bestseller, then that's cool.
Well, you're like, that's fine. Bestseller, top book, No, I like that answer. And like I said, like what Nico said.
#1 New York Times bestseller.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing, when your next work comes out, seriously, because obviously, and of course, we've all, we're fans of Prince of Tennis, but one of the things that we do, that like as creators, especially on this channel, is we like to highlight, not just the industry, but basically the perspective of what it's like to be in the industry. And, the fact you've come on today, you've talked about your experiences, of course, as an assistant, but we want to be able to, of course, see, your truest work. And I think that's one of the things that I think is important for, many creators out there to put their own experiences and passions into their work, and, be able to tell their own story.
Yeah.
Through it. So before we go ahead and close out, anything you want to say? Oh, no.
Definitely got
Sorry, go ahead.
to tell at this point.
Anything you want to say, Nico?
I just said I had a lot of stories to tell at this point, and hopefully a lot more.
Other than that, do you have any other social media handles you wanted to put out there? We'll go ahead and add it to the details section of the post here. Unfortunately, can't add it to the comment section right now. Recording session, but definitely going to be adding in if you have any handles you want out there, any Twitter, Instagram, Facebook posts, any links to Rainbow Crate.
Yeah.
Or
where should everyone check out your work at?
Or even the bus.
Yeah, definitely. So I think I use mostly Instagram and Twitter these days, but I'm also on TikTok. There's like one video there. One of these days I will make videos for that. So they're all under just my name, no spaces, Jamie Lynn Lano. I made it super easy to find me. And I have Instagram for all my bus stuff, so I wouldn't fill up my feed with that. It's linked in my profile. Also, the Rainbow Crate accounts are also linked in my profile, so you can find them pretty easy. Just follow me on Instagram and Twitter, Jamie Lynn Lano. You'll get the deets on what's coming up and when. So hopefully, after I get on the road, I think is when my my art is going to pick up a lot. So there will be a lot to post then. Until then, I've been kind of slow.
Okay.
I've been reading a lot, so.
Well, everyone, we appreciate you guys checking out the show today. Make sure you guys leave a like. Make sure you check out the next show, of course. So subscribe if you want to go ahead and get an update on our next video coming out. Of course, we have a few more episodes left in this season of Shining Spotlight. And make sure you check out all of Jamie's work down below. So basically, you go to her pages, like her pages, follow her pages. Of course, and there's a lot to learn, and a lot to, follow, of course, especially when she's back on the road. We all want to be able to see the greatness. With that being said, we'll see you guys later, Shining Lights.
Catch you all later.